You ever been at the top of the universe? I'm gonna take it. What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail, right? All we have is sports and entertainment. Like I was watching some commercial, and it had his brother. I know he's from Louisiana. You know, I was gonna be, and where I'm from, all we gonna be sports players or drug dealers. And I'm like, listen, I'm tired of y'all lying. And what's basically going on, you're starting to see a shift in us as black people as a whole, because we tired, man. If you grew up in the hood, your only option was not to play sports or deal drugs. It wasn't. It was not. Truth is, the people who effed up their life and didn't make it in sports or drugs, that's the excuse they use. Because all of their classmates in elementary, grade school, high school, all of them goal wasn't sports or drug dealing. It wasn't. Sports, rapping or singing and drug dealing. Stop it. There were people who wanted to be lawyers, doctors. See, people forget. Once you get to be an adult, and now you got adults sitting here lying like when they would have the little classes when we were kids. What do you want to be? I want to be a fireman. I want to be a football player. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a policeman. All them things came up. But then when you get to high school, I just want to just play sports and be a sports player or deal drugs. Those are two extreme things. Two very extreme things. Now, there was a time where athletes, primarily in football, were thugs. There was a time that was true. But basketball, not so much. So if you was a hooper, I don't want to hear that I was a thug story, because it's a lie. Nine times out of 10, it was a lie. You play football, depends on what era we talking, I could give it to you. Possibly. But even those guys knew something. The guys they were running with who was in the streets, they didn't want that. They wasn't that physical. They didn't want that kind of action. So a lot of people who claim to be gangsters that quit playing football and basketball or track or wrestling or boxing because they wasn't built like that. It was all talk. It was all talk. So in the drug dealer thing, when people say they're drug dealers or they want to hustle and this, that, and the third, here's what it is. They're lazy people who never wanted to work. That's all that is. With the dumb idea of, I never wanted to work for somebody. If you've ever been in the streets before, and that means you ain't even have to deal drugs. Drug dealers work for people. So even the people who go, I ain't never had to work for nobody, you're a lie. I just went and bought the product, and I copped it, and then I worked it, that. Y'all skipping steps. Y'all didn't just walk into the street buying quarters, halves, and keys. Stop playing games with people. You started that 9 times out of 10 you got fronted, and you had to pay them back, and you was bad with money, so you did it over and over and over and over again. And if you shorted them on their money because you was working for them, it was gonna be a problem. If you started actually prospering, if somebody above that person was like, hey, you gonna work, you work for me anyways, but you gonna work for me directly doing this. So all this, we was all hustlers, cut it out. Cut it out. When y'all was watching Paid in Full, and all them hustlers that was making all that money was all at some point working for Ace, who was working for the plug. Stop it. All right? Now, the reason why I got to get into this is because this idea we all had, all we had was sports and this, that, and the third. No, That was not it. People had dreams, so you dreamed as big as you could dream. That's how sports and entertainment came to be. I'm going to dream as big as I can. And what I see on television at the time was athletes that look like me and entertainers that look like me. That's what it was. That's what it was. But you got to remember, we saw astronauts, we saw doctors, we saw lawyers, we saw police officers. People had different things that they wanted to be. So, now people are trying to reinvent history. And it's like, I'm tired of y'all, bro. I'm really tired of y'all. It wasn't like that. Because where I was at, where you was at, you lying. Because look, if that's the case, now people find out the brain damage that football could cause, right? And they find out the brain damage that boxing could cause. We already knew about the brain damage boxing could cause. And you know what it takes to fight in the UFC. You notice these kids ain't trying to, let's be honest, they're not out here trying to be boxers. They're not out here trying to be football players anymore. Their parents like, you can be other things. These are the same parents who came from the same neighborhoods that was saying, all we had was athletes, entertainers, and drugs. Their parents wasn't athletes, entertainers, or drug dealers. So how is that all that, all you could do to make it? You're lying. Now you folks who didn't want to go to school, didn't want to learn, wanted to cut all the time, then you wind up not graduating and going to alternative schools, or you barely graduated so you can hit the streets, and now people put you on camera because you stupid and you'll regurgitate this talking point. Because you messed your life up. I'm telling the truth for you, because you ain't got the heart to do it. So like, share, subscribe, or die trying. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.